Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of the Idaho House Republicans podcast, where you get to learn a little bit more about the representatives that you have sent to the State House. And today we are very grateful to have Representative Shawn Dygert, and he represents Legislative District 23. He's in seat B, and he's in his first term, a freshman. And let me tell you a little bit about Shawn. He was born in Blackfoot, Idaho, so he's a born and bred Idahoan. He now lives in Melba. He went to Utah State undergrad, and he went to the University of Idaho for his master's degree. And he was an agricultural education teacher and a Future Farmers of America advisor for 35 years. That's commitment, brother. And the best part about Shawn is his beautiful wife, Annette. They've been married for 40 years.
40, going on 41.
There you go. You have 4 beautiful children.
Yes, we do.
And 12 grandchildren?
That's what my wife told me. As of last count, there's 12.
Okay, yeah, because you can lose count after a
dozen.
Well,
that's what my wife does so good, is she keeps me straightened out when we're going to go visit.
Tell us a little bit about Legislative District 23. Where is it, and what kind of voters? What's it like? Rural, urban?
Legislative District 23 is a highly unique kind of district because it's Ada County south of Hubbard Road. And actually, we have one of the prisons in the district. We have CS Beef in the district, and City of Kuna from Hubbard Road south. Then over in Canyon County, it's basically Lake Lowell south, and then all of Owyhee County. So those 3 regions each have highly unique characteristics and different priorities. And so trying to make it work for all 3 districts is quite a balancing act, actually.
Tell me, what do your constituents care about?
Well, if you're in the Kuna area, you're really worried about the development that's going on, and you're really worried about the aquifer that's under Kuna as development goes, and more straws. There's more going in the ground. They're really worried about power consumption because we have data centers that are in the district, and so they're worried it's going to compete and raise their prices. We're making sure we've got energy to put there, and this applies to the whole district. But we have farmland that is very, very valuable as seed crop. Land, and it's a huge part of the economy, and people don't know we are a very specific, highly priced part of the world for raising seed crops. Very, very important, and that's a lot of the South Canyon County folks are really, really big on that. And as things change, we're losing those acres. Then Owyhee County, over towards Homedale Marshing, they have some of that seed production and quite a bit of row crop farming. But then the rest of the county is a lot of ranching and a lot of public land management. And so dealing with those kinds of issues that come up there. Obviously, in the district, water is a huge issue. Not only groundwater, water rights, surface water. It was interesting. I was talking to some constituents. They didn't realize we have a little over 100 miles of the Snake River in District 23. And so when they talk about that eastern Snake River aquifer, when we dry up the river at Milner, every drop of water we have in the river on our part comes out of the cliffs at Thousand Springs and on down through the Hagerman area. And so we're talking, the river is fully rejuvenated. We have the river we have here.
Wow.
So we do need to pay a lot of attention to what's going on in the river way up on the other end of the state, or we're not going to have river on this end of the state.
Well, it's interesting, as you know, Lieutenant Governor Scott Bedke is very committed to water issues and preserving the rights of everyone. And he did talk about extensively about the aquifer and how the legislature's invested money in rejuvenating the aquifer. And when you start talking about these water issues, one of the things we got to do with our mindset, we got to think 50 years and 100 years, how that has been happening, how that ancient aquifer got there and was created. We're still learning how to get it recharged. And so we need to start thinking long term. And so our solutions need to be that. And there's no way we're going to be able to just flip a switch and say, hey, we have more water in the aquifer. It has to be very long-term strategic thinking so folks can still have their water rights. We can still have our agriculture. We can still have our recreation, the fishing and everything that goes on with the Snake River and the reservoirs that are part of it. Right, and industry and residential. And,
power production, all of it that goes with it. So,
Representative Dygert, you are a freshman,
I'm a freshman.
It's always a good question. Why did you decide to come to this august body in the House?
Well, as a high school teacher, I taught agriculture, and I became the legislative liaison for all the Idaho ag teachers way back in the day. And then we worked on some specific legislation for ag programs in 2014, 15, somewhere in there, and really got into the process. I learned one of the things I like is I like being part of the solution. And I really appreciate when people come and sit down across the desk from you and say, here's where we're at and here's what we need, and really provide good, solid solutions to get there. Very valid concerns.
One thing I love about Idaho is that an individual citizen can make a difference here. They come up with a good idea. They sit with the legislator. The legislator then says, oh, you're onto something there. You work with legislative services. You got a bill. You introduce it in the committee, and holy cow, it could actually become a law.
Yeah, actually, this might jump our agenda a little bit, but that's one of the bills that I have. It's one that deals with LLCs and disclosing addresses. And I had a constituent in Hawaii County that's creating a home-based LLC.
So limited liability corporations.
Limited liability corporations, because she's worried. She doesn't want her home address on the front page of the Secretary of State.
So this is House Bill 582.
House Bill 582. And so we've been working on it. And then we have a good solution we're working on so that they could have a registered commercial agent, which means it's a company in Idaho that will host and be their address. And what makes that important is that's a servable address. If they're given a legal paper or a bill or anything there, they're served. They've delivered it. They have it, and they're obligated to whatever was delivered. But then City of Kuna had a little bit of concerns on some of the words because they use that website to find new businesses that are showing up inside the City of Kuna. And so we're working on making it so they can find new businesses, and we can still provide a layer where it's just not right out there on page 1 of the Secretary of State's webpage, but we don't want LLCs to hide, and we don't want them to the world's not what it used to be. So people do some of their home-based business, and then they're using social media to promote it, which means people are seeing their surroundings. And now they worry about what kind of harmful individual would show up.
Right. So the original idea is I want to start a home business. I have some privacy concerns, safety concerns. And they come to you and say, hey, can you work something out? And you come up with a bill and
come up with a bill.
It goes.
Yeah, and we got it printed. What's nice is the people with the concerns are calling me and say, hey, here's our concerns. So we go, okay, that's a valid concern. Let's go see how we can fix this and make it work.
Yeah, I don't think people appreciate that. Sometimes it takes a while to actually get a bill perfect. Sometimes a bill is passed and they'll even say on the floor, I know this bill's not perfect, and it's like you'd have some changes, but it's better than not doing something. And sometimes the bill in committee gets reformed, goes back, gets signed another bill number, and comes back in a better form, and then goes to the floor. There's a whole bunch of different ways this can happen.
Well, and that's one of the things I learned last year with my first session being in here is that a lot of these bills, it'd be easy to jump in and get very emotional, put a lot of energy to them early. But a lot of times, if I just wait and sit back, a lot of the problems will sort themselves out.
Right.
And wait till they bring a finished product that's ready for prime time, and then become more engaged if I really need to promote it and help it, or if I need to be against it. So,
Representative Dygert, tell people about the committees that you serve on here in the House.
Yeah, well, one of the fun ones with all the drama, state affairs. In fact, I tell folks
that's a fun one.
That's a fun one.
All the controversial stuff.
And I tell people there's a lot of people that are paying TV subscriptions to see the kind of drama that we get to see for free.
And Chairman Crane handles that very well.
He does very well. And the way that committee functions is different from some of the others, because Chairman Crane is really good about, if there's an RS and people have a problem with it, let's vet it right there instead of letting it cycle through and take up more time.
Right.
I'm also on the resource committee, and I'm on the agriculture committee.
You better be on the agriculture.
Well, that's kind of my wheelhouse. Yeah, that's my wheelhouse. So I feel pretty good on that one.
Yeah. You started to talk about a House bill that you brought, which is 582, which is a LLC bill. But you've also brought a couple other bills. One's House Bill 509, and it talks about vehicle inspection. So what is that bill?
Well, that's the same thing. Constituents come to me down by where I live, roving port of entry, where they inspect trucks. And during harvest season, what would happen is the trucks would pull in there and they'd want to do the full 30 and 45-minute vehicle inspection every time the truck goes by. And if you know how the harvest trucks work, they're between the place where the crop's being stored in the field all the time. So they could be going by that site 7-8 times. They were wanting to do the full inspection every time through. And our local guys would go talk to them, say, just inspect this once a day. And the trucks were passing and being sent on. They weren't being taken out of service, and they weren't being cited.
Nothing nefarious.
Nothing. No. And he goes, just inspect this once in the morning. And they work hard to keep their equipment in really good shape. So then they'd And in essence, since they wouldn't do that, they'd have to shut down for the day while the port was open. So they'd lose harvest days. So, and I started back in September, Department of Transportation, the folks that oversee that. And I reached out to them and said, why don't you just let it last for 24 hours? And I kind of got patted on the head, kind of nice. And then I talked to other legislators and they go, 24 hours, that's not enough. Let's go 72. Because I found this is the same thing that happens to logging trucks up north. Some eastern Idaho guys have had trouble, other things. And Chairman Palmer in Transportation, he says, well, we'll just print this thing and they'll be in your office tomorrow. And lo and behold, they were in my office the next day. And
they meaning
the transportation folks that handle the roving ports and the inspection of trucks.
Wow.
And so now what we have now, and this is actually probably the right way to have it, because I'm not sure it needs to be an Idaho code. But now I have a letterhead and sealed letter that now in their training manual is to train them that they're not going to do that walk around inspection more than once in a 24-hour period on the same truck.
Well, there you go.
And so if they live up to their deal and that's how they're going to train their folks, and I say, because we don't want unsafe trucks on the road.
No, of course not.
And we don't want bad things happening, but there's kind of a rule of common sense that you need to follow on that.
So in this case, Chairman Joe Palmer, you're talking about, who chairs the transportation, said, hey, let's put in a number here that'll get them to actually express what their real concerns are. Then we can work out the final details of the bill and move forward.
Yeah.
Very clever move.
It is, but the bill's actually not going to move forward. We're not even going to worry about a hearing on it because we met our goal.
Right. They've already agreed to how they're going to handle this.
So I'm not going to try to use up people's time anymore.
Right.
When we reached a goal that we were after for, so we can help our people and we can, that's just a strategy. That's not the stuff that'll ever make it in the paper.
Less code's probably better sometimes, right?
Yep.
Well, congratulations on that. That's awesome. So now let's talk about another thing that you're working on, which is Senate Joint Memorial 107, which talks about mining.
Well, and that was a memorial that we have the Integra Delamore mine that's out there in Hawaii County. And if people get a chance to see it, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's an old, previously mined area. Okay. The folks that were there in the past, I call it the sins of the past. And we don't want to hold people currently doing such a great job for sins of the past. Well, they can mine that now.
Okay.
And
what do they mine there?
Gold. It'll be gold. And they're using a lot of B words when they talk about how many. A lot of billions of gold that's there.
Wow.
And if you know the history of Silver City and the mining of Hawaii County, it's there. And you get out there and you tour the site. But Integra has done some things that's really cool for our county. It's going to bring jobs. It's going to increase our property tax that they're going to pay in.
The base, right?
Yep, the base. They're going to, they are being very good partners with the folks that graze around them. And it's mostly private ground that they own that they're going to mine. It's not very much BLM. So they're working with the grazing partners to the point they know their grazing partners by first name.
Wow.
Yeah, and vice versa. When I talk to folks there, the reclamation and restoration will be way better than what's currently left from who came before. In fact, one of the challenges they're going to have, they're going to find, and they know this, they're going to find old mine shafts that were there from the late 1800s.
Wow.
Just deserted, and they're going to have to deal with that. So they'll be able to fix that. And then they've been very proactive. They worked with the Shopai tribe, which is down at the Duckwater Reservation down there in South Hawaii County. And they've already got an agreement in place. And the reservation's excited to have them open and go because they've already got everything in place on if they find artifacts or remains or anything else, they're going to be handled appropriately.
Right.
And so the tribe is just thrilled to have them come in. And, they work with our county commissioner. So the point of the memorial was for us as a legislator to tell the federal folks, get on it and get their permitting process through. And
I think with this administration, that probably happens more quickly.
It's sped up since the Trump administration. Their process has sped up. And if they can speed it up more, then they can get it done during the Trump administration. They don't have to worry about what happens when the next administration comes.
And is there a expected, is it called a groundbreaking, a re-groundbreaking of the mine itself?
That's a good question. I'll have to ask them.
Yeah,
I'll have to ask them because for folks who go out there, it kind of is a phone call and they do tours quite often.
No, I'd love to see it now that you've talked about it.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
So the joint memorial is kind of sending a signal.
Yep.
Federal government, entire legislature's behind this.
Yes.
We think this is a great idea. Yep. Help us have this come to fruition.
Right. And as we move on, getting strategic minerals out of the ground is going to become more and more of a priority, especially as technology advances. People need to understand it takes raw materials to keep up with technology.
Let's talk about a couple of privacy bills. One is House Bill 606, which is a restroom, changing room, locker room bill. What's that do?
There's two different bills. 606 makes it so if they find a man inside a woman's facility, changing, locker room, bathroom, those things, and it would apply a criminal punishment.
Right. It's willful too.
Willful.
Right.
Willful. Okay. So then 607 is the one that applies civil. And we had 607 in committee the other day in State Affairs.
And that's called the Protecting Privacy and Safety in Public Buildings Act.
And I struggle with that one. Now, we all want men out of women's spaces.
Right.
We want them secure. There's no doubt.
100%.
Okay. Where I struggled with 607, it was going to make the business civilly responsible for lawsuits if they didn't take reasonable care.
Okay.
Okay. I really struggle with making a business responsible for an individual's bad acts.
Okay.
And what does reasonable care mean? So does that mean if I go to a local grocery store, they obviously have public restrooms in there and they're labeled men and women? Is that enough to go reasonable care? Or do they now have to have an employee there? All the things. What's reasonable care? And so I'm not, and it'll be on the floor. Well, and I voted against it in committee, but it passed. And now I'd have to rethink, what do I want to do? Because I do want to send the message, it is not okay.
Right.
For men to be but I also don't think it's right or fair to make a business responsible for an individual's
for a person's
bad
decision.
Now, 606, I am much more supportive of. That's the one that makes it a criminal act.
Right. A misdemeanor for knowingly entering a restroom, changing room, locker room of the opposite sex.
Correct.
Knowingly and willingly.
Right. So now that puts
it. Misdemeanor the first time,
and
then I think it's criminal the second time. Is that right?
And I think there's some good side things that'll come out of that. So now if law enforcement's called, there's an arrest made, the very minimum that's going to happen is they're going to run their driver's license and find out, is this a sexual predator? Is this registered sex offender? Is this? So you're going, okay, now we got a new set of problems that we can identify now. And so I support making it a criminal thing and hold the person that's doing it responsible rather than trying to allow a business to be sued for however much damage.
We'll have to watch the House debate on
it'll be interesting
and see how that goes.
Well, and I've asked leadership where I'm a freshman, all I can do is ask for things like, I don't have, I don't have any.
Well, if you stay long enough, you'll probably be vice chair of ag, I would think, and maybe chair
we'll
at some
see.
point.
And I suggested, because 606 is now in the Jude and Rules Committee, Judicial Committee, and I would like those to come out to the same third reading calendar. So now
they can be debated together.
Yeah, reasonably close together. And also we can find out, are we more inclined to make it a civil or are we more inclined to make it a
criminal?
And I think that would help all of us on the floor.
Yeah, create some clarity on which direction.
Well, and I think that would that's what I like to see. And unfortunately, it's kind of today's world of social media and what they do in politics. 607 has some real problems with the way the business is being liable, I think. And I think there's a lot of people that would agree with that. But there are people out there that will turn that into, look, Representative Dygert wants males in women's spaces, and that's not it.
Yeah, politics is a funny thing.
It is. And, turning things into what they're not is some people's specialties. But that's why I'd like those two to come together. Not that they will, and I don't get any call on that. And, that's all up to leadership.
Well, we'll pray for your wisdom and discernment on that. Now, let's talk about, again, you were an agricultural education teacher, and you worked with the Future Farmers America advisor for 35 years.
Yes.
So is there anything in your ag committee that you're seeing come through that you feel is important for Idaho this year?
Well, one of the things, and we just voted on the floor, and it actually came through the resource, but it deals with ag, is there was a way to have a fund for rangeland improvements. And this is where people get mixed up. It's outside money. It's not general fund money getting appropriated into it. It's either being generated from the land or from some private sources and private grants. But we had to create any money that comes into that, we still have to provide spending authority for. So it allows spending authority for rangeland improvements. And
what would that
well,
be?
That would include improving water, then include grazing, that includes fighting noxious weeds, and includes species conservation efforts, all the things that go with the rangeland. And a lot of people will look at that kind of narrow and say, well, this is all about grazing. Well, no.
So rangeland is state-owned land?
It's a mix of BLM and federal.
Fed?
Yeah, it's both.
Okay.
But we can improve water. When we do this, we're improving recreation, we're improving hunting, we're improving our species conservation, we're improving access. And so people that don't normally realize they have a vested interest, they do have a vested interest.
And the money would come from where for this fund?
It's money either generated from use of the land,
okay,
or
fees, okay,
or outside money grants.
So someone could donate or a grant,
organizations, and I know University of Idaho has done some really, really cool stuff on grazing and how it mixes in with sage grouse. It's been really cool.
Okay, so a question: what is the future of American farming?
Well, I think it's pretty bright. One of the because I did teach for 35 years, and the kids were absolutely phenomenal. Everybody worries about how we're doing with kids, but the vast majority of them are doing awesome. And in fact, it was a little awkward for me, almost a little embarrassing, because after we did the joint memorial with the Integra folks, they had us come out and do a picture with the people working on the permits for Integra, and
everybody knew you.
Well, no, the gal goes, "Well, you're Mr. Dygert." Well, yes, I am. I was in your ag class.
Wow.
And I was in 2017. I go, well, remind me your name. So here she is, and she's now working for Integra and working on the permitting process for them to get the mine going.
How cool is that?
Yeah. So we're in really good shape. And to quote the good Representative Gerald Raymond, he doesn't refer to those kids as the future leaders of tomorrow. He goes, these are our leaders today already.
Amen.
And so they're doing really good and really awesome. In fact, and we'll get to see some of them Monday in the Ag Committee. And we're in good shape.
Well, thank you for how you sewed into those kids' lives for all those years and really encouraged. That's such an important and integral part of our economy and still our future. And thank you for helping sew into the next generations.
Well, it treated me very well for a very long time. And I didn't realize, it's quite humbling, and it's also quite satisfying and almost ego boost when I meet these kids I haven't seen for years and years, and they're doing these great, awesome things. And it's really fun to have them share with me what kind of things they're up to.
And the best part is the 35 years of students and the families and their kids can all vote for you because they all know you.
I hope so. I know that probably some of those that I gave detention to back in the day, they might think, oh, that mean old Mr. Dygert, we're going to.
No, I think they probably it was tough love.
Well, that
made them better.
That could be.
Anyway, we're so grateful for you, Representative Shawn Dygert. You represent Legislative District 23 in Seat B. You're a freshman, but having an impact already. We thank you for sharing with us the 3 bills that you have going through and some thoughts on some other bills that are going through the State House right now. We thank you for your 35 years of education.
Oh, well, thank you. That's
very kind. And for protecting the future farmer of Idaho, not just America.
Yeah.
And we thank you for joining us on the Idaho House Republicans podcast. Well,
it's been a lot of fun to be here. I appreciate
it's easy, right? And so, as we always say, God bless the great state of Idaho. And thank you, Representative Shawn Dygert.
Hey, well, thank you very much.
Sunrise on the Snake River plain, red, white, and blue in the window pane. Work boots dusty from yesterday, but we're back at it the Idaho way.